Welcome to Fireside Fitness, a place for real conversations with the people who are shaping the fitness industry today. I'm Rochelle Volk, your host, and today we're talking about how to supercharge your gym or studio sales. I'm joined by Chris Appiah, the founder of the Sales Arms, where he helps gyms and studio owners build high-performing sales systems that drive consistent revenue growth. With over 10 years of sales experience in the fitness industry, spanning boutique studios, big box gyms, corporate wellness, personal training, and amenity management, Chris has seen this business from all sides. Today, he uses that experience to help owners improve lead conversion, strengthen their sales processes, and build scalable, predictable revenue. So welcome, Chris. So excited to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And great intro. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, your work speaks for itself. So let's just hop right into it here. I want to talk about your background a little bit. You are somebody who has spent over a decade in fitness sales, starting all the way from the front line, working at gyms, up to senior leadership, and then eventually starting your own company, which is the Sales Arms. What made you realize that there was a need for sales coaching in the fitness space?
Well, when I originally started this, it was all through the work that I had done, coming up in my career. The role that I, hopped around in was sales manager, member manager, general manager in some facilities as well. And in my time, I just realized that people don't really want to do this job, and people don't know how to, but they're expected to, right? And just like everything else, a level of education from somebody who's done it is probably going to be your best case to help you actually learn and be able to do it yourself. So just being able to, through my experience, say, hey, let me just share my knowledge and what I've done, and hope that that is something that's going to be valuable. And it turned out that a lot of people find it to be very valuable.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how you work, just looking into more of what you do at your company now, that you work on both that kind of coaching side as well as actually just giving them that direct sales support. So it seems like there's a lot of ways that you can support the club owners that you're working with.
Well, the traditional model has front desk people, sales manager, general managers, and when you have awesome team members, in many cases they just need guidance. They need that education, they need that structure, they need process. But what many of us fitness business owners face as one of the biggest challenges is the lack of talent to do those jobs. And when you do find them, the high level of turnover in that position because it's not a career position. So it makes it tough to be consistent in what you need to do to be great when you have people issues, right? So being able to identify if you have a great team and you just need to coach, or if you need to figure out somebody to do it because you can't find, is a place that a lot of owners find themselves.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that even in a lot of gyms that we've worked with and gyms I've just even attended as a client. I will go through the sales process on the member side, and it ranges, I find, from being either too extreme where it's very pushy. They're calling me like 4 times a day and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I regret putting my phone number down, to the other side where there's no follow-up. And I'm like, okay, like a little bit of follow-up I would have appreciated because I was interested in joining, but then nobody followed up and I kind of just fell through the cracks. So it feels like it's almost too extreme sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I think that that has become because when even when I started in this, calling heavily and staying on top of people was the way to go. And I think it worked well because there wasn't as much information and knowledge in the space. But with the growth of technology, social media, just advertising and marketing as a whole, many people have the information or the base information that they need, and they want to have a real conversation with somebody that feels genuine versus just being sold into fitness. And because we were doing it one way or the past, I feel a lot of the newer players in the space, the new operators, or you see a lot of people who are go to the extreme other side, like, well, we don't want to be extremely pushy and salesy, and then they end up not doing anything at all. And yeah, I think that we have to come to a happy medium in that lead management world, and that's one of the biggest things that we're helping our clients with day in and day out. Everybody's cadence, their tone, what they want to deliver to their community is not the same. And although you might have the same modality as somebody else, a mile or two away, who you are and the energy that you want to bring from and put out in your business dictates how you want to speak to all the prospects, how aggressive you may be in lead management, or how soft you are. But finding that special sweet spot that also speaks to the brand that you want to create is something that's really important for all business owners in this space.
Well, I really love that you touch on that personalization aspect, because I think sometimes the thought with sales or sales systems is, here is the system, this is, ABC, and this is going to work for everybody. Here you go, we can guarantee it. But I love that you're talking about, maybe what feels authentic or feels aligned for one gym, their brand, their feel isn't going to feel the same for somebody else. So I really love that you bring that personalization element to it.
And I think that the reason it's like that is because, again, we come from a place where it was really predominantly, big chains of gyms, franchises, and that was pretty much it. And now where we are, the space is so many entrepreneurs, right? People that are operating on their own, bringing fitness to their communities. And through that, it creates this level of personality and individualization in the space where it was really structured and generalized, and it made it easy to say, this is how you should do it. This is how we've seen success. But when you now come into the space and you're doing something different than the traditional molds, well, then you have to be you want to convey yourself different. And a lot of people also don't want to give, like we were talking about, that old school gym feel or that hard salesy feel. And all of that comes through how you convey your message and how you communicate with your prospects and your leads. And we're seeing that shift in the industry because there are more and more people who are doing this on their own outside of a corporate umbrella or a franchise.
I think a lot of gym owners and studio owners that are listening will be happy to hear that they don't necessarily have to hop on the phone 6 times a day and be calling people, especially after they're wearing so many hats in their own business and running everything else. I think that's the last thing they want to do at the end of the day.
So very clear that you do have to hop on the phone.
Yes.
All those times throughout the day.
Yeah.
You do have to do that. But if you don't want to do that, you have to put processes in place so that somebody is doing that, because people still convert the highest on the phone, believe it or not. People don't answer as much these days because, again, there's phone screening, there's all the spam calls and robocalls, not just in our industry, but across, the board. So you don't get as many people who are answering. But when people do know who they're communicating with, they do answer. They appreciate having a real conversation. And in many cases, they'll close on the phone, right? Because it is something that they inherently wanted. And if you're able to build value and give that good feeling through a conversation and let your personality show, people tend to convert at a higher level because they feel comfortable with what they're going to experience.
Yeah, it has to be human to human, not just, like you said, people feel like they're being sold to. I think that turns people off so quickly. But if you can just have an honest dialogue with them, get to know them, why they're interested in joining the gym in the first place. It's usually a very personal reason for a lot of people. And taking the time to understand that, I would imagine, goes a long way when it comes to converting.
It goes a long way, but like you just said, it takes time. And that is the first thing that falls by the wayside in running and operating most fitness and wellness businesses. It is the lead management, because it is very, very tedious, right? People don't answer, like we were saying, on the first call, and you got to follow up and you got to figure out when is the best time to reach out to them. And that's all very time consuming. And it's not that owners don't necessarily care, right? They're just caught up with making sure they have the right people in there. Are the class schedules, correlating to what the community wants? Did their instructor actually show up on time? Are their kids sick, or are they okay? Right? There's so many things that they're dealing with where it's easy to just, I'll make that call later.
Yeah.
But then that call later becomes tomorrow, and then you got new leads coming in, and then it's a snowball effect. And traditionally, right, we've been talking about how things were 10 years ago to kind of the shift now. General managers or owners were always expected to do all of those things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it leads to burnout. It leads to, a bad taste in your mouth for what you originally were in love with and what you fell in love with doing because of all of the responsibilities that fall on you, and inherently a lot of them falling by the wayside, which then affects performance. You need a team. These businesses and the best ones that we work with operate with a great team, right? And there's two ways you can do that, right? In this day and age, you can have the traditional model, have some great people on the ground, and hope that they stay with you as long as your doors are open.
Right.
But if you can't find that, there are so many people in the space who are able to coach you, work virtually, support in the task management of the day to day, because the technology has come so far that if you can't find the physical person, there are solutions in the virtual space. But it's about getting somebody to do it consistently and build with you over time to be the perfect thing that you and your community needs.
I kind of almost think of it as like working out, right? I mean, for some of us, we love working out, especially for people who work in fitness. But for some people, it's that thing that gets pushed, right? They're like, okay, they're all gung ho to do it in the morning, probably the same as sales, right? They're like, I'm going to call this many people. They get tired. They have all these responsibilities. They're like, okay, well, tomorrow it gets pushed, right? So the solution, I believe, and that this is what I want to talk to you about, is having the system in place that makes it a no-brainer. It's automated, whether that's an external person, like you said, that you're hiring, or building that internal sales system. So can you talk about, because I know that you assist gym owners, club owners with doing this, what does a high-performing sales system actually look like in a gym setting? And where are most businesses kind of losing their leads in that process?
Yeah, so a high-performing sales system, a sales process, right? It first starts with the tech in the business. One of the things that I first go through with anybody is understanding the software that they're using in the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is what you're using going to help you achieve the goals that you have, right? Are you able to communicate on in the top three ways people communicate, right? Text message, email, phone call. Are you able to create automations? Are you able to create tasks, right? So first things first, does your software do all of the things that you need to run a successful sales system,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you start there. And then it's creating process, right? Outreach cadences, follow-up cadences, follow backs, right? Making sure that you have tasks in place that you could follow day to day. And this is something that anybody can come in, see, maybe even see a checklist and be able to do it on their own. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, it's the training, right? How do you train your team or your outsourced team on executing on those processes that you've now put in place? And what does continued education look like? Right? These are the things that are falling by the wayside in a big way in most facilities, right? If the tech is there, the next thing is the training. Again, because most people don't know. They weren't trained themselves, and they're hiring, expecting and hoping that the experience that person had is going to translate into the job that they want. So a big portion of a successful sales program is the continued education in the sales process, right? Who is going to do that? Is it, if it's you, right? Are you qualified to do that? And if it's not you, are you spending money to outsource to get an expert to come in to continue to coach your team?
Yeah.
Um, and then the last thing, and I call this my three T's. It's my team, right? It's really pouring into your team, establishing that this is a team effort, right? Making sure everybody knows their roles on that team, right? Making sure everybody knows what their goals are on that team, and then being led by somebody to hold a standard of excellence every day. Because you could do it for a week, you could do it for 2 weeks, but these fitness businesses are 365 to 7 days a week, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is you have to perfect this every single day. And that is what gets hard for most people in that entry level role. And that's why we see the systems break, because there is almost always turnover and loss in the traditional model.
Yeah. Well, and for people that are listening to this, I think this is really interesting. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because even as I'm talking to you now, I teach fitness myself. I work at a couple different studios. And I would probably bet to say that unless I'm not aware of it, that almost none of them have any kind of sales system aside from maybe like an email automation kind of flow that subscribes when they sign up for a class that comes automatically through their tech, through their booking platform. Other than that, there's no calls, there's no text, there's almost no nothing. And so if somebody is in that position right now and they just want to take that first step, I know you mentioned kind of starting with tech. Where should they even begin? Before they even get to making their processes and finding this team, where would you kind of recommend they start with maybe looking for the tech or seeing if their current tech has that ability?
Let's make sure you have something that calls, texts, and emails, right?
Calls, text, emails. Okay.
And in most cases, if you're trying to run a successful business, this is not your personal phone. This is not your personal email. It is not your personal text message, right?
Hopefully not.
You would hope so, because that gets messy. But making sure you have all the forms of communication that people use, right? Because like you're saying, you see a lot of people that get into, well, I have emails that go out. It's like, well, you don't know if that person ever even checks their email. Right?
Yeah, most times it's going to junk or spam
we don't know what the person on the other side, how they like to communicate best, right?
Right.
And we know that they're communicating through text message, phone call, or email. In most cases, we want to make sure we have something that's going to meet them everywhere, right? So if you have an automated email that goes out, there should be maybe an automated text message that also goes out, and maybe a automated task reminder for somebody to make a phone call.
Yeah.
So all three things are happening at once. But to come back and answer your question, what are the most basic things you could do? Make sure you have phone, text, and email, and make sure you're gathering first name, last name, phone number, and email address. Because a big thing that I see with the people that don't have these processes in place, many times you see that I'm only collecting the email address.
Yeah.
Right? So I can tell you to get a text platform. I can tell you to start calling people, but you don't even have that information.
Yeah, there's no information. Yeah.
So let's make sure for anybody that's interacting with your business, however they interact with your business, whether that is through lead generation, from ads, or you're standing outside and just handing out flyers. Everything must come first name, last name, email address, and phone number, so that you can be personal in how you speak to them, and you can reach them in all of the places where people commonly communicate.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I think that's a great starting point, because I feel like a lot of people, that's going to make a huge difference right there, is just having all the data that you need and then implementing that into your system. And then kind of going more into the second part of, we've got now the tech in place, we've got the information we need, and it's coming time to develop those processes and train the team. How have you seen, I guess, business owners, how do they really document those processes? I'm imagining just like binders full of like scattered notes, Is it kept like online? I'm sure people are using all different types, but what have you seen people really have success with when it comes to documenting their processes?
Okay, so I was going to say, I haven't seen it all in terms of how people are doing it, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
What actually tends to be more successful is just one being very organized in how you folder things, right? Like making sure things have clear names, right, for your folders, and then dropping anything that correlates in those, right? Whether it be videos, screenshots. So, for example, I have a lead management best practices folder, a member management best practices folder, a text messaging best practices folder, and any webinars that I've done that speak to lead management, I put them in there. Any great screenshots of good lead management conversations, I'll put in there, right? And that allows me to then just send a folder, digital folder to anybody that needs those topics. So for studios, right, creating separate folders for all of the topics in your process, right? So what does it look, best practices when greeting people, right? And having all of the different things in there, right? Getting people into class, right? What does that look like? Are we maybe, some of our best studios are creating an amazing experience prior to people even coming in, right? So they have SOPs that involve, writing somebody's name on the locker, putting a love note in there that's personal to them,
Yeah,
making
that's great.
sure that they are introducing them personally to the instructor, right? So making sure you have all of these things broken out granularly into folders, and then over time continue to fill those folders with examples. That's what I've seen some of the best studios I work with do. That makes it easy not only for their team, but for people like myself who are coming in to support, to pick up very quickly what has been done that's been successful.
Yeah. No, that's great. And then I would say for people that, let's say they're really proactive on the other side, the opposite person has no systems. They haven't even opened a gym or studio yet. They're thinking about maybe doing it in the next year or two, and they want to pre-sell memberships, because I know you help support clients with pre-sale and launches as well. How do you sell something that doesn't even exist yet? I'm really curious about, how does that process work? Because I know that there's a lot of clubs that have had a lot of success with it, where they basically have sold all their memberships and they haven't even opened their doors yet. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you support clients through a successful launch?
Yeah, pre-sale and just pre-opening of a facility can tend to be a whirlwind. But there's construction, there's permitting, there's all the stuff. There's always delays, so it can be tough. The pre-sale period, the pre-sale phase, for us, we like them between 90 days and 180 days in most cases. But how you sell memberships during that time for something that's not there is all rooted in the conversations that you're having with people who are interested in what you're bringing to your community, right? It
Right.
goes back to lead management and being able to have quality conversations. But not only that, marketing, right? And making sure that people know that you're coming. So one of the big things that we do in supporting our clients in pre-sale that has really helped the launch in the earlier days, we are calling all businesses, schools, condo communities, apartment complexes, everything within a 2 to 5 mile radius of the facility, depending on the density of the area, to let other small business owners know, people that live, work, shop, eat within 5 mile radius of the facility, that we're there, and pitch something in terms of partnership for them, so that you're getting people in the community now talking about what you are bringing, because it's all about building that buzz about what is coming to the community in a few months, and then from there having those conversations, conveying the value of what you're going to do. And if that aligns with what people are looking for, and in pre-sale, it's all about, lead generation. And lead generation comes from people looking for what you're building. If
Yeah.
people are excited and you build the value through that conversation, in many cases, they're going to sign up, even if it's something that's not there. But you always get people who are like, well, it's not there. I need to see it before I
Yeah.
actually spend money. And
Oh, of
that's where
course.
different strategies come in, right?
Yeah.
Because you were saying it before, that there's those people that they know what they want. They're extreme exercisers. They don't need to really be sold. They see what you're doing. They believe in it. 5 to 10% of people, that interact with you in your business in a pre-sale, they're going to be that. But the
Yeah.
other 90%, they need an understanding. They need to understand. They need to learn the value. They need to see maybe pictures, renderings of what you're bringing. And even then, it still isn't enough for them to say, I'm going to pay my whole first month
Yeah.
for something that's not there. And this is where the strategy comes into play. So some facilities or owners that we've worked with, right? Because the goal is for a lot of these studios to know that people are committed to what you're bringing. So in those cases, we love to say, hey, make a low barrier to entry deposit, right? $1 to $20 that says this is going to hold your spot for when we open because we know you as a consumer, you don't want to pay for something that is not open. So you're
Yeah.
going to get this lower rate.
That's
We
a good
had
point.
this conversation. I know you want this. Hold your spot with $20, right? And when we open, you're locked in. You're good to go, right? And so you got to find the middle ground for the consumer. Sometimes not everybody's going to want to put that their complete first month up. So having different options in pre-sale is something that we coach studios on and owners on in that. But all of this has to come together to create that. And although you've had successful ones with similar modalities, it's different in every demographic, and the strategy switches up. So we often see people that are told, "Oh, I was supposed to do it this way," and that theory isn't wrong, but it doesn't mean it's right for you,
Yeah.
how you want to run your business, how you want to grow your business, the demographic that you're in. And that's where the customization and the strategy comes into play. And you only get that working with people who have done it.
Yeah. And for the club owner that right now feels very stuck. Let's say their growth is stagnated, they don't have many new leads coming in, and maybe they think they have a marketing problem and they come to you and they say, "Hey, I don't know if it's my marketing, my sales. I need help. I'm not growing." Maybe they're in the red. They've been in the red for several years. How do you determine if it's a lead problem, marketing lead gen problem, or if it's a problem with their sales system?
You got to get in the weeds. You have to do the work, right? And one thing, about me and us at the sales arms, there are no guarantees for results for the work that we're doing because we don't know, right? We have no idea. And I tell people all the time, be weary of the people in the space that guarantee you results because it is almost impossible to guarantee results in the fitness space.
Yeah.
So I think it's very, very, very important to make sure, like as a studio owner, you're going to work with the right people, right? You're going to ask the right people the right questions. You hopefully get coaching on that, and you do what needs to be done to make the changes to drive the business in the way that you want.
Yeah. No, that's great. And how are you like when you're starting with them for the first time? How are you auditing? Like, how are you kind of getting in there with them? Like, are you visiting them in person? Like, how do you kind of dig into like everything they're doing?
So we call it a data mine, right? So we
Okay,
go in
cool.
and every prospect or lead that's in the system, that's not on a recurring membership, we're going to reach out to, right? Because our goal is to understand if these people had interest at one point,
Yeah.
why don't they have interest now? Or maybe they do, and they just needed somebody to reach out. So we go in and we do a data mine to get an understanding of where your system is now, how the leads are responding, are they engaging, are they not, right? And from there, it allows us to, in many cases, understand what has happened historically within the facility. Sometimes, in the best case scenarios, it's, I moved away or the class schedule, didn't really work with my time. But sometimes you go in there and you found out an instructor was being inappropriate with members, right? And or the owner did something with finances, right? And it left a bad taste in people's mouth. You uncover uh, all the things through conversation. At least that's how we do it, and it allows us to make decisions from a really educated place, from getting feedback from people who have an interest in the facility and for one reason or another aren't interested right now. And that gives us what we need to make the necessary pivots to be successful for that studio. So really going in and talking to the people, like I said, you got to get in there and understand what has happened historically. And you don't get that. Unfortunately, you don't get that from studio owner because we see things from our lens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that could be rose colored.
Yeah, it takes an outside party sometimes to, as much as we may not like it, to have that, yeah, not a reality check per se, but sometimes a little
Yeah, you know
bit.
what? Look, and I tell people, I tell my team members, as much as we love sharing the good stuff, we really got to share the hard stuff as well, because that's the things that are needed in terms of change to get our clients to where they need to be. And they're hiring us to be real for them, to
Yeah.
uncover these things and let them know what we believe as experts is necessary. And sometimes it's a hard conversation.
Yeah. I think it's Gary Vee that talks a lot about candor and the importance of candor in a business and how, yeah, it's, being kind is important and treating people with respect. But if you're not honest with them after a while, you're doing them more of a disservice than anything.
I tell everybody, if you aren't seeing the results you want, talk to everybody that's interacting in your business genuinely. Don't try to sell them anything. Poll them, right? I tell people, poll your members, poll your prospects, ask, how can I be better? What do you like? What you don't like, right? Because there's no reason to guess, right? Give me the answers to the test so I can deliver the best experience for all of you, right? But if you're not asking for it, if you're not seeking that stuff out, you're just throwing darts at a dartboard, hoping to hit the bullseye is in this situation moving, right? So
Yeah.
so asking for the feedback is going to unlock what you need to do to be successful for your community specifically.
Yeah. Oh, no. Thank you so much, Chris. I think this conversation is going to be, I mean, not only have you shared so much knowledge just from, obviously your experience spanning so many areas of fitness, but I think that, yeah, just being honest and the way that you really stressed how these things can be individual, but it requires that level of stepping up and taking accountability, I think, above all, to make those changes. I think that people will really find a lot of value in that approach. So
I think
thank you.
what's really important to like leave people with is that times have changed, right? How things worked well. And in some cases, they still do. But times have really changed, and how people want to be communicated with have changed greatly. So making sure you are communicating in a personalized way. You are asking questions, looking for the why of everybody that is interacting with your business. You'll find out very quickly what needs to be done to be successful. But you got to ask for those answers to the test.
Yeah. No, 100%. And there's one question that we always ask every guest at the very end of our conversation, Chris. I'm going to ask it to you today. What excites you most about the future of the fitness industry? It can be from the sales side, it can be really anything, but we just love to hear from leaders what excites them most.
What excites me the most is the differentiation in the space. Remember, we were speaking earlier about, the fitness space traditionally was, the big brands, the big boxes, and that was it. While it's really hard for a lot of people to open studios, it's beautiful to see what is coming in all of these communities in terms of options to take care of yourself, right? It's not just a gym where you can just go in and just have to figure out yourself. And some people love that, but being able to go to the Pilates place or maybe the cycling place, both strength training, the wellness facility as well, just the growth in the space that creates a level of customization, personalization, and options for the consumer is what is really exciting for me, because at the end of the day, I love what I do because we're helping people be the best versions of themselves through
Mm-hmm.
convincing them to take care of themselves in fitness and wellness. And just having more options is awesome. And I think that is the best thing that's happening to the industry on the consumer side.
I love that. Thank you so much, Chris. And yeah, before we close, can you just plug all your stuff? Where can people find you if they want to connect with you for coaching, for sales support, or even just to learn from you and your content? Yeah, share all of your things.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Christopher Appiah. I am the founder and CEO of the Sales Arms. We support fitness and wellness businesses in doing the day-to-day work that often falls by the wayside. We make the calls, we send the texts, we build a rapport with your database. And if you find yourself dealing with staff turnover, or you just don't have people that have that sales acumen, or maybe you do, but they just need a little bit of coaching, you can find us at thesalesarms.com. We are at the Sales Arms on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn, Christopher Appiah, or the Sales Arms. But I host every discovery call with my COO personally, because it's important to us to understand exactly the nuances of your situation and create something custom to your needs. So everybody that we work with has a customized program that is built around the needs of their business and how they want to grow over the next years. So if you need support or you just want to ask some questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm Chris Appiah at the Sales Arms, and would love to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for taking the time and joining us today. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to the show to get more episodes just like this, and leave us a comment of future guests that you would like to see us interview next. Thank you so much.